This week in Perashat Shelah, we are introduced to one of the great leaders of the Jewish nation, Yehoshua ben Nun. At a time when the other spies went to the land of Israel and reported back that yes, it's a good land, but the walls of the cities are high, the people are giants, we will never make it. Only Yehoshua ben Nun and Caleb ben Yefuneh says, God is with us. We have to have confidence. We have to have faith and go in. And when they see that the people back down and are not going to continue on their journey to the land, they tear their clothes. Yehoshua ben Nun saw things from a proper perspective that the other people weren't able to appreciate. And we learned something very interesting in the Daf Yomi that we studied yesterday, that Yehoshua ben Nun, when he died, was not mourned. Whereas Moshe and Aaron, when they died, it says the people of Israel cried. When Yehoshua dies, the text is silent. And the Talmud says that the people were responsible, were deserving of punishment for that. We learn from this that when a great leader, when a Torah scholar dies, everyone is like his relative. That is a halacha. Everyone must cry. Everyone must rend their garment. So whoever cries, the Talmud there says, for an upright person, all of his sins are forgiven, because that means that we appreciate what the values and the contribution of that person, what they gave to the nation and to the world. These past couple of weeks have been difficult in the Jewish community, in that we lost three great leaders, three great minds, sages. One of them is Professor Yakov Shweta. He is a Talmid Chacham and also a computer scientist who designed the Bar Ilan Responsive Project and Geniza.org, the website. These are repositories of all of Jewish learning, all of Torah from all ages. That's available for anyone. I and thousands of others use this on a daily basis. And the zechut of all the Torah that's learned is given to him. He is also a great role model, someone who showed me a lot of kindness and hosted me. And really a model of someone who brings together many different worlds, both being a Sephardic descent and a great scholar. He created his programs to be used not only by yeshiva students and professors and just lay people, all those who love and want to study Torah. Really a very unique individual who will be very missed. A second great leader in American Jewry that died a couple of weeks ago is Rabbi Norman Lamb, whose books I've been reading since high school and college, where he was the president of Yeshiva University when I was a student. Recently, one of his speeches was republished. This is a sermon he gave in 1966, just a year after the Voting Rights Act, when the issues of racism were at the top of the agenda. And I just want to read and paraphrase 3 paragraphs that he said then, and think about what it means for us today. He wrote, "We as Jews are not responsible for the conditions of Black people in the United States. Our grandfathers were not slaveholders who devised this cruel and inhuman system. However," he says, "we are still part of a society and an economy that in many cases still harbors prejudice and mistreats minorities. So the question is, what shall we do about it?" And here he sets up 2 paradigms, that of Adam and that of Abraham. The pattern of Adam, he writes, is to hide and to shift blame to Black power bigots and to the hoodlums who riot in Watts, referring to the great riots in California in 1965 that some of you may remember, to Black anti-Semitism. They say, look at those people and say, therefore, we don't have to involve ourselves. We conveniently ignore the fact that hoodlums and anti-Semites come in all colors. We shift the blame to negative elements, and thus, like Adam, we suppress our conscience and shield ourselves from real problems. So Adam hides any guilt and any blame, and so too, that is one way that we can react. But that is not the way of Abraham. The pattern of Abraham is not that at all. The people of Israel, Rabbi Lamb writes, attempt to respond constructively and creatively and sympathetically. Within this framework, there may be several techniques about which well-intentioned people may disagree, but they will not allow side issues to becloud their main goal of finding a clear and moral way out of our country's painful racial dilemma. And so Rabbi Lem here sets up this framework, and he says we have to avoid any extremes, not to feel any troubling of conscience is a sign of our own moral failure. Yet to go overboard and to dedicate our efforts only to civil rights, to concentrate only on the rights of others, while ignoring the preservation of our own community here and overseas, is to lose perspective and to reveal an inner moral weakness, while we try to strengthen ourselves morally in some other direction. But in between these two extremes, that is the way of Abraham, who cares for Sodom and also for his own kin, Lot. You see Rabbi Lamb's moral clarity, a great leader for American Judaism, in his eloquence and his thoughtfulness and his breadth of knowledge. He was able to appreciate what was going on around him and bring a Torah message, a Torah perspective to it. Another great leader. And lastly, we also lost recently Hacham Hosea Faur, a great teacher and writer and Torah scholar. There was something in the daf also that we read yesterday that reminded me a lot of his teachings. The Talmud says, one who is standing over the deceased and witnesses the soul of a person leave him is obligated to rend his garment, even if he's not related. Why? To what is it similar? To a Torah scroll that was burned. In other words, we learn the law of rending one's garment from the law that one has to also tear clothing for a Torah scroll that's burned. And you can wonder, what's the connection between a person and a Torah scroll? Chacham Faur spoke often about the deep connection between us people as readers, as those who study, and the text of the Torah. The way that human beings only understand the world around us through text. We create a whole system of mathematics, and then we apply it to the world, and that's how we understand the world around us. The world in our understanding is very much a construct of our minds. It's kind of like making a midrash. And so to reading nature is similar to reading the Torah. The Jewish people uses Lashon HaKodesh. And just like any people, the language that they use to cipher the world will give them a different perspective. We use the language of the Torah in order to understand the world around us and improve it. The writings of Chacham Faur are deep and majestic, and I think it's still underappreciated. It will take many more years before we can unpack the depth of his insight. But we have, great leaders that came before us, and just like Yehoshua was able to see things for his generation that others weren't able to see, so too we have to look to and learn from our Talmidei Chachamim, our sages, who show us the path. And so it's our obligation to cry, to mourn for the losses of great leaders in our day. But the fundamental obligation is to learn from their works, to appreciate them, and think about the path that they've set before us, and hopefully be inspired by it and walk through and walk down the paths that they have set before us. Wishing you all Shabbat Shalom.